What's up guys, this is King Crafts. We are here today. We're going to be making the pink soldier mask from the new TV show on Netflix, Squid Game. If you guys have just watched it like I have, you're going to probably be a little obsessed with how cool some of the masks are in the show, as well as the characters, but I was intrigued especially by the pink soldier one, and I thought I'd give it a go at building it. Here is a video of how I made it and how you guys can make it as well. I've included templates in the description below so you guys don't have to worry about making the pieces yourself. I'm going to be showing you step by step how I made this mask and how you guys can make it as well. So, without further ado, let's get straight into the video. First, you will need to get a kitchen sieve, scissors, cardboard, a Stanley knife, sandpaper, this is optional, a hot glue gun, and black spray paint. Step 1. If you're using the kitchen sieve, you want to make a small incision with some scissors. This will allow you to remove the mesh from the metal ring. If you've made a good enough incision, the mesh should just be able to fall out of the metal ring, and it should look something like this once you're done with that process. The next thing I went and did is found a mask online and just printed it out so I could have a general shape of how I wanted the mask to look. I've included this as a template so you guys don't have to worry about editing it like I did here. I printed it at 90%. After I've done this, I traced it out with my Stanley knife. Once it's finished, it should look something like this. Now, it's not a major detail because it doesn't have any impact, but there are some small curves around the middle of the mask. I then just put the mesh on to see if it fits. Next thing that we'll be making is the details on the front of the mask. You have two strips down the side and one across the middle. I traced them out to about 1.5 centimeters, and I quickly realized after that it was way too big, so I trimmed it to around 1 centimeter. As you can see, it is way too big, so I trimmed it to 1 centimeter, and all of these pieces are in the template, so you'll be easy to find them. I then used some sandpaper just to sand the edges. This is optional, but it just gave it a really smooth finish. So the next thing we'll be doing is the two pieces that run down the side. These pieces are the exact same as the top piece, they are 1 centimeter. After I trimmed it out, I went again and just sanded it back to make it nice and smooth. All these pieces are in the templates, however you might need to adjust to your mask and your liking. After this, I cut the template in half. Now this is optional, but I just did it to allow for some flexibility within the mesh. After this, I trimmed it into a semicircle, so the edges so that you can put your face into the mask. You want to make sure that you cut it just enough so that it doesn't break, but also enough so that you can fit your face into the mesh. It should look something like this, around 1 centimeter all the way around. After I cut out the face template, I just put the mesh over to make sure it fits, and as you can see, sits nicely inside the mesh. The next thing you're going to want to do is grab your hot glue gun, if you have one, and hot glue the templates to the inside of the mask. This gives the mask the shape that you get. The pink soldier is roughly an oval. Now when you make the first template, you're going to see that it is kind of more circle than oval, but once we put the straps on that tie around your head, it's really going to give it that oval shape. This part is optional, but I did it just to allow for some curvature inside the mesh. The problem is, I realized that I had to take this out because you can actually see it through the mesh once you spray it black. So you don't have to do this, this just allowed for that kind of oval-y shape. The next step that you're going to want to do after you've glued in all the templates is you want to cut off all the excess if you have any. I had a lot of sharp edges around the mask and I didn't want that to intrude with my face. I'd recommend using some sharp scissors just to cut those off. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually stick on face details. You've got the main piece which runs across the middle of the face and the two bottom pieces which sit around the lower areas. When I looked at the actual mask in the TV show, the middle piece actually sits lower than the middle. It is not 50%, it's not halfway, it is relatively 40% above the face. So when you're sticking this on, you don't want to put the middle piece exactly in the middle of your helmet. You want to put it a little bit lower to allow for the square which we will spray paint on to have much more room. After I glued on the three pieces, I went back and looked at the helmet, and it's got this piece that runs all the way around the helmet. This is almost like a singular piece of cardboard, but I realized that you've got the middle pieces which intrude, so I had to make multiple pieces just to run around the sides of the face. These are in the templates as well. You may need to adjust the size of them depending on your helmet and your liking, but they're relatively simple to attach. I'm just using some hot glue again just to run around the sides. After you've attached all the face details, this is what it should look like. As you can see, I mentioned before, you can see that piece that runs in the middle, but I will be taking that out later. You also need to attach this piece here, which is in the templates. Next, I use some gloss black spray paint just to spray over the entire helmet. This is when I realized that you could still see the support which is in the inside, so I had to end up taking that out. But that's no issue, you don't have to include that anyways. It didn't add much, but it just gives the mask a little bit of curvature. I did 3 coats of black paint, and as you can see, this is what it looks like afterwards. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. The next step is getting that square on the front of the mask. Now you can choose to do a circle or a triangle, but I just chose to do a square because in the show it's the highest rank, so I thought that would be cool. I just printed off a square here. It is in the templates and I traced it out. The square ended up being a little big, so I ended up making my own, and this is in the templates. I just traced over the square template with a white marker, as you can see. If you have a white marker, I'd recommend doing this, or even like just some paint, you can go over it with that. The next thing I did was just get some white paint, and I just carefully went inside the lines. You're going to want to do multiple coats of this because the paint does not want to stick too well to the mesh. So you want to do multiple coats and let it dry. Afterwards it should look something like this. I think I did about 4 coats of paint. I went back to look at some reference images and I noticed that they actually do have a thin piece that runs down the middle. All you need for this is some thin card. You can use paper if you need to, but I recommend some thin cardboard. I just cut that out. This is in the templates as well, and put some hot glue and stuck it down the middle of the mask. It should look something like this at the end. The next step is adding buckles to the sides of the helmet so that when you put it on, you have some straps that you can tie up. I used an old bike helmet and I just took out the straps from the bike helmet. As you can see, here they are. And I'm going to put them on the sides where the middle piece runs. You're going to want to reinforce the straps with a lot of hot glue. I recommend just sticking down the sides and then going over the tops with some hot glue. Here you can see I've gone over the tops of the straps with some hot glue just to reinforce them because they are going to be holding up the mask and you don't want them to break. The next thing I did was just mask off the top thing so I didn't get the rectangle black, and I just sprayed that bottom piece. Now you guys should probably do the bottom piece before you do the rectangle, but I completely forgot to do the bottom piece. So here's me spraying it. I then went over the rectangle with the markers just to get that shape correct. So after all that, it should look something like this. I realized that the pieces on the front may have been a little big, but you guys can adjust them how you want. I'm relatively happy with how this turned out.